1, 2, 3. Before we even get started, I got a script, all right? I ain't want to miss nothing, so you're going to see me looking off a little bit on some of this parts, but I'm talking to you, all right? It's a conversation. I wanted to call this Damn It Bungie, but I don't know how the title will hold up. I was told by several content creators back in the day that cursing in your first 30 seconds of the video can demonetize it. Well, good thing I'm not at 500 subscribers yet, and I ain't making no money off these videos anyway, so I can pop my... I don't want to be the dead horse or dead guardian, I don't know. But this is not adding up at all, and I need a sounding board real quick, because the more I think about it, the more upset I get. No, wrong word. Not mad, not angry, just, I don't know, incredulous? Is that a good word? Like, what's the word when you feel like somebody's missing the point, but they keep talking like they understand the point? Whatever that word is, because damn it, Bungie, like, what are we doing? Destiny Showcase, the company's teasing some huge reveals, including the K6 revival that I'm sure they expected people to freak out about initially, and I definitely did, until I stopped to think about the trajectory the company is currently on with storytelling. And now, the concern is overwhelming. I know people say all the time this is a make or break moment for Bungie, but this one really is. Because for the first time in a very long time, D2 players are playing other games that scratch the itch that D2 used to provide. You want something for loot? Better storytelling? Better gambit mode? You're fighting dinosaurs with mech suits, and it's free on Game Pass. See, here's the problem for Bungie. They can literally afford to mess up thanks to this whole Sony backing, but as far as public perception is concerned, they can't afford to mess this up at all. Have you ever invested so much into something to the point where your investment, not your current interest level, becomes a driving factor for you to see it through? This is an element that I feel at the time Destiny and Destiny 2 is mastered, and there was enough promise with the gunplay, the characters, the stories being woven that made it feel like it was worth the time sink because the payoff would be great. The longer we played the game, however, the more scant and scarce those moments have become. Not because there's not great characters to pull from, but because the game consistently forgets how to write a compelling narrative that comes with a rewarding payoff. That may be harsh. Maybe it's the fact that we have to wait weekly for that narrative, and the story updates that do drop can usually be summarized in a sentence. Or the fact that anytime lately it seems Bungie is on to something, they just fumble the narrative completely. The Witch Queen campaign was great because of the challenge in combat, the well-written story and backdrop to Savathun, and it was worth the time to invest to see how she came back alive, and finding out that the Traveler revived her was a genuine, this is cool, what are they doing next? Moment. It was a water cooler moment, or I guess you could say a tower moment. I don't know. Gotta translate it to Destiny so people. Yeah, you got it. But that's the last flash of inspiration the team seemed to have had with overall cohesive, rewarding narratives. Lightfall had introduced and killed off a pretty cool character before we even got attached. Then the follow-up killed off one of our favorite NPCs in the tower just for shock value. Both of these moments had no real payoff. It was just there to elicit a reaction for the week, damn near. But at least those had missions for us to play through, to see for ourselves for the most part. The main villain in the D2 universe, the Witness, we had to go looking through computer uploads by accident to even figure that out. Let me explain that. The Lightfall campaign did nothing to move the story scale outside of give us a playground for Strand. It was basically the Osiris training simulator. And initially that was fine, but after you spend a few hours essentially acting out that training montage with no real stories being explained, it sat with me differently because it felt like everyone else knew what the veil was except us. There's even a part in the campaign where Ghost says, I'm fuzzy on this, and instead of asking about the veil, he asked about their current objective. So Bungie promised more exciting news to explain the veil and the Witness, but then they added it to an empty arena on a computer when you first start the mission, and it's just audio logs. There's no visual anything. It's just a bunch of audio logs explaining everything out. Nothing to engage you while you're listening. Literally no enemies in the mission whatsoever. It's just audio logs on an easily missable computer when you first drop into the mission. This is how they chose to explain some of the biggest developments in the 10-year history of the game. So narratively, with the Lightfall fumble, the Amanda Holiday fumble, the WTF explanation of who the Witness is, and the quote-unquote audio adventure it took us to get here, you really expect me to be excited about K6 returning and about Final Shape? Fam, I feel like they about to screw this up. And it is a feeling of dread that I cannot shake because this will be the first time that I found something that I loved in 2014 and invested so much into for them to just up and say we not compatible and change directions out of nowhere. Well, second time.
Outstanding.
I don't have faith in Bungie right now, man. That's what I'm saying. The fact that they've contradicted themselves constantly when it comes to philosophies for each class, and even PvP, there's just a lot of things they're not adding up either. And I'm a PvP casual. A lot of my complaints for the game have to do with the accessibility for my friends, for us to feel rewarded for our times at higher levels. And Nightfalls are solid, but the PvP experience is relatively miserable, especially since there seems to be more cheaters now than there was before they announced they were banning people. Trials of Osiris, it has consistently had the best weapons that we want to chase and grind for, but it's ridiculous finding games that feel balanced or lag free or no cheaters. So we just don't. The stress isn't really worth my peace in that situation. So that's a solid portion of the game that's just not fun to play at the moment for myself. Then there's Gambit, which is only fun when you have a full team, and even then it needs some significant updates. I feel like this game can be broken into 3 pieces, although they're pretty uneven. PvE, which covers story stuff, strikes, open world shenanigans. PvP, which is Crucible, Trials of Osiris, and Gambit, hybrid of both, so PvE, EVP. Normally, Destiny 2 has at least one of these 3 things rolling in the positive, or at least a hopeful direction. And circling back now to the state of the game, this is the first time I can remember where they're doubling down on the issues the game had, as opposed to committing resources to fix the problem, or problems. The entire state of the game, it just felt like Bungie stating what they already done, saying what they're going to do, that's in their best interest, and giving excuses as to why they can't cater to relatively reasonable demands from the least toxic portion of the community. PvP's been asking for new stages and no cheaters for well over a year, since I've paid attention seriously at least. And that's honestly because the PvP side of D2 is admittedly pretty toxic, and is single-handedly one of the main reasons that Bungie ghosts on immediate real-time responses to questions and bugs, and they ran DMG away. So there's that. But with that happening, Destiny literally said, to set expectations, our studio structure is built to support more overarching updates to PvP like the ones above, rather than focusing exclusively on maps. When we do focus our resources on building new Crucible maps, it comes with the trade-off of multiple teams' bandwidth on work that contributes to a variety of experiences that players also hold dear, such as new story or exotic mission content, core activities that make up the foundation of each season, or new destinations. So the excuse, just to be clear, is that giving new maps is a sacrifice for the rest of the game. I'm sorry. Didn't they just get $3.6 billion from Sony? Can't you just buy some votes? Help you out? I don't know, just thinking out loud. But it's even worse for Gambit though. Look at this. As many of you have noticed, we've been quiet on Gambit since last year's overhaul that launched alongside the Witch Queen. And that revamp, the team made significant changes across 5 categories in Gambit: core activity fundamentals, primeval tuning, invasion, ammo economy, and rewards. So that's them basically saying, this is what we did. Unfortunately, these updates didn't move the needle for player engagement. Although we know our Gambit fans mostly care about newer returning maps, this is an area of the game with lower engagement that would take resources away from more popular parts of the game to shore up. While we don't have plans to dedicate more resources to significantly transform Gambit, we do have a few updates planned for the year of the final shape. Wait. You don't add content to the game mode, and then you use the stats from the no content game mode to say that it's dead and not worth adding content to? Do we follow that? That's literally like having a boss work someone for 24 hours straight, and then right when the worker's about to drop dead from everything he's done for the day, the boss decides to use that moment to say, oh, I knew he was lazy. Never mind the other productivity he's gotten out of that worker when he was in his prime, refreshed and roaring to go, foregoing all of that to skip to the assumption of him not moving the needle for player engagement. It's kind of crazy to me. I don't like it when companies refuse to take accountability for things, and this is rapidly becoming that. This is also sadly proving a point for a lot of people concerning them not focusing on Destiny 2, the game, to focus on other things like Destiny 2, the universe, or the TV show, or whatever's coming out of that Sony deal, or Bungie's new PvP game, Marathon, or even Matter, whatever that may be. I want Bungie to win, but I need them to want to actually finish this story up and make it worth everybody's while. Because if they somehow squander a 10-year story because their inability to tell it properly, or because they were skimping resources to look ahead, the player retention will be the least of their problems. Hey, quick edit. All of that was written beginning of August. Just took me a while to record it because of life. Apologies on that. Since then, Joe Blackburn's issued an emergency video that addressed a lot, but here's the main 3 things from it for me. Firstly, they're assigning an internal strike team to target PvP. Now that's important because they've done it before, and one of the things that the strike team implemented was the Masterwork system. So maybe that could be okay. And Masterwork is not the greatest system by all means, but it is an extra level of replayability and value to the game. So cool. If they're able to do that with PvP, it's a good look. Now I will say this: I don't have a lot of hope about D2 PvP putting down their pitchforks in order to realize this is a great idea for them to like be able to finally submit ideas and be heard. I think D2 is way too toxic for that, in my opinion. Secondly, they talk about their armor tiers, right? They talk about in good faith they're putting out one of the silver tiers that they had as an in-game reward next season. But that doesn't really tell me that they're changing the model of monetization and making the best armor go into the store for you to buy. All that's telling me is that, oh, our bad, you can get one for free. So that doesn't really move the needle of my player engagement, to put it that way. Lastly, I wanted to note personally that it takes a lot of courage to just attack this with like an unedited video, no script. I'm literally doing that right now for this addendum. I would much rather have a script, you know what I mean? I'll give props to him on that. I'm just kind of burnt out on the game right now because I genuinely used to love it, and unless the showcase does something remarkable, yeah, I don't know, man.